Welcome to A Double
and
Dice
with your host Kim
and Jocelyn.
Pour your favorite beverage,
Pull up a comfy chair,
because we are ready to roll.
Welcome to episode 33 of A Double and Dice, and today we are continuing our team building series, and we are talking about control, and we have brackets in here, protection, and removal. It's on the page.
It is on the page.
We always read our notes.
It's highlighted in orange.
Yes, yeah, it's in orange. So yes, we're talking about control, brackets, protection, and removal. And we have a special guest today that's going to help us out with that, aren't we, Jocelyn? Or don't we, Jocelyn? Aren't we?
We absolutely do, Kim. We do, we are, we, all of those things. Pick a verb, and that's what we have going on. So, in fact, the episode today was... not just the episode today, this entire team building series was inspired by this email that we got from a super fan. And we got this email back in February after we did a podcast episode. And the email says, "Hi, Kim and Jocelyn. I just finished your latest episode where you team brewed for the new OP Spider-Man, and you mentioned adding control and removal. Well, a topic idea for your show came to me to expand on the concepts of control and removal and what cards could be beneficial to both. I think that newer players could benefit from exploring these areas, as well as more experienced players who may be inspired to look at cards they don't normally use. Just a thought." So we reached out to this superfan and said, "Hey, can you join us on the podcast?" And there was a whole conversation about agents and fax machines, but in the end, after many scheduling conflicts, we were able to bring in our superfan. So we would like to welcome Rob today.
Hi, Kim. Hi, Jocelyn.
It's Rob.
We need a clap.
So welcome, Rob. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to come out.
Yeah, so this email that you sent us inspired this entire team building series. So,
well, that's awesome. I'm guilty as charged, I guess.
Yeah, so I think we owe you...
I said that Jocelyn wants to continue for the rest of the year.
Hey, I told you we're going to get as much content out of this as possible. So, however many episodes we've been doing this for, it's Rob's. It's all credit to Rob. So,
I
couldn't have done it without you.
All you. Well, maybe I kind of gave you that idea, but you and Kim have been doing a lot of good work, and there's been a lot of episodes and discussions about this type of thing, right?
Yeah, there has, and many more if I have my way, but Kim may overrule me at some point. So, but yeah, so welcome. And so Rob, you have a YouTube channel.
I do, yes. So, as you know, Jocelyn, because you've been there for most of it, maybe all, we've been recording... I think you did
a couple of small videos without me.
Oh, that's true. We've been recording gameplay videos, so we've been doing some Dice Masters, we've been doing some Hero Clicks and things like that over at Dice Station Zebra on YouTube. And you can check it out there just by searching in the search bar. Yeah,
and we are continuing on our subscriber plan here, trying to get to 100 subs so that we can say youtube.com/Dice Station Zebra. As of today, as of day of recording, we are at 81 subs.
So we're inching our way there.
Yeah, only 19 more people need to sub and or create new email addresses specifically to sub to us on YouTube. So,
that's right, and then we get a nice name or something out of it, right?
A URL.
A URL, that's it.
A PH88Y lowercase l.
Yeah.
You know, those crazy ones they have.
Yeah, we're getting away from that URL. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to youtube.com/Dice Station Zebra. So, Dice Station videos, Dice Masters videos, and HeroClix videos and other stuff. I really enjoyed that Thunderbirds game we played.
Right. Yeah, we did that a couple weeks back, and that was fun because that's a cool board game. And Kim, you played that with us once, I believe.
Did I?
I don't know if you remember. It's the cooperative board game.
Yeah, we played it at the game store in the before
right?
times.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. Seems like forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
This pandemic's been going on for a very long time.
Side note, when I saw Nick's picture of him at a restaurant, I got very jealous.
Oh, I saw that
that
on Facebook. Yeah,
I
him
was
and
like,
Robin went
really?
out to
They
eat.
can go to a restaurant? No, like no, we can't do that here.
I'm hoping patios will come soon.
Yeah, with the summer, I'm sure everybody wants that, right?
When I see pictures like that, I kind of get slightly anxious at first, like, oh, everyone's too close together, or
Oh yeah.
it's just the first thing that pops into my mind.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
mhm.
So anyway, so should we talk about these things that you highlighted in orange here, Kim?
Yeah, sure. We want to start with control or removal. Guess gets to pick.
Yeah, where does guest want to start?
Oh, well, I would say let's just talk about control because I believe that removal is a subset of control, right? It is a form of control. So
Yeah,
I
I
think we
think
should
so.
cover control first.
All right.
Okay, so how do you, Rob, define control in Dice Masters?
Well, I mean, we could get vague or we could get, laser focused, but I sort of came up with control. Well, I was going to lead off with it's a card that grants an effect to maximize your win potential and or limit your opponent's win potential. So that's just sort of like a general idea of what control is. What
I
do
think
you
that's a
think?
really good definition.
I mean, it's very simple. It's as
Well,
we'll see, the discussion will go deeper.
yeah, but I think that, as we've talked about before in this game, both on the podcast and at the game store in the before times, this game is a simple game at its base, but as you learn more about it, it gets more complex. And what do our friends at Rolling Thunder say? The hidden complexities or
And
something?
the underlying mechanics.
That's right.
And
So,
really, how you couldn't describe it any better than that. That is
yeah.
that is perfect, right? So
Yeah.
those guys nailed it with that line.
Yeah, way to go, Arj.
That's right.
High fives. We miss your podcast. Please
Yeah,
record more.
we miss those guys. It's been a while since we've heard from Arjun Lucan.
Yeah. So I think that is a good description. So when we take control at sort of its essence, it's just very entry level or high level control. Like what's a card you would think of, or how would you Rob start controlling your opponent?
Well, I think the obvious one, to me anyway, is something that will disable your opponent's win condition, right? So, we're going to talk right away about something like Shriek, right?
Yeah, so
Which
that would be
is-
Shriek Sonic Beam.
That's the one.
That came from the Spider-Man.
Yes, Spider-Man Maximum Carnage or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Shriek Sonic Beam is unfortunately not modern anymore, but it's an excellent example of control. And she
Right.
reads, when fielded, choose an opposing character card, replacing all previous choices. While Shriek is active, ignore that card's text, including global abilities. And
Right.
she's a
So with
3-cost
this,
bolt.
right. So with this, you're just blanking your opponent's win condition right off the bat, and your opponent has to go into removal mode, essentially trying to get rid of Shriek Sonic Beam, unless of course they brought their own Shriek.
That's right.
And then you played the Shriek minigame.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right.
Now they did make a modern card that's very similar to this card,
Right.
which
And that would be
is-
Typhoid Mary.
Yep.
Typhoid Mary, red rubber boots.
Mhm.
That's the one.
So her text is it's exactly the same. When fielded, choose an opposing character card, replacing all previous choices. While Typhoid Mary is active, ignore that card's.
Ignore that card's text, including global abilities.
Did Shriek say character card, or did she say die?
No, Shriek said card. Yeah. This card is a little bit different, and it's a little bit harder to reach for. So where Shriek Sonic
Yeah.
Beam was a 3-cost bolt, Typhoid Mary is a 4-cost, and she is a bolt and mask die. She's a crossover character, so you need a bolt and a mask, or 2 question marks at least, in order to purchase her.
So it feels like they did balance it a little bit, right? They wanted to still have a modern piece, a modern card that could have that effect. However, they made it a little harder for you to get, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think that there are ways in the modern meta, because she's a mask, that gives you the ability to reduce her cost with Oscar, right?
True.
Oscar reduces the cost of
Right.
mask cards. So
Yes. And
there's
in that
ways to get
case,
her for
though,
cheap.
yeah, but you would have to pay either a bolt.
That's right.
Right.
Minimum.
You would need both.
Yeah.
Now, has that been ruled on? I haven't followed the discussion on Asuka, but even though it's a mask and a bolt, she can still reduce the cost of it.
She can, but you would still
Okay.
have to meet the minimum purchase of the crossover die, which is a mask and a
Right.
bolt.
That's
Oh,
right.
So, yeah, because Asuka reduces them to 2, reduces them by 2, right?
a
Mhm.
3-cost character will not work. Oh, she cannot lower a 3-cost crossover character. Even though it lowers it to 1, you still have to pay the bolt and the mask for a 3-cost. In example.
Yeah, it's still reduced by 1.
Yeah, it's still reduced, but you're still paying 2 because you have to pay both, right? So
Yeah. So anyway, so Asuka wasn't really the purpose of the conversation, but that's how
But
she can get
cheap,
a little
yeah.
bit cheaper.
yeah.
Which I'm gonna, if I can interject, I would present that Asuka is also a form of control because you're controlling the cost of your character. What do you think of that?
Ooh, that's deep.
Is that deep? It's not really all that
I'm-
deep, is it?
I think. Well, I mean, I was just thinking high level.
Yeah.
About controlling
For
at
sure.
that level, and then when you start talking about like controlling the costs of your characters and reducing the costs of your
Yeah.
characters and things like that, that does
Right.
get deep. I like it.
But that's getting a little bit off the current topic. We can come back to that a little bit later about reducing costs and increasing costs.
Sure, absolutely.
Asuka never
So-
works for me anyways.
Kim's bitter about Asuka.
Oh yeah,
I
she
know.
never ever works out in my favor of lowering cost for masks. So
Is that because she doesn't feel? She doesn't roll?
yeah, a bit of both. I think Matt would agree with me too. I think he doesn't like Asuka too much either.
I went through a phase where I didn't like Yawning Portal for that very reason. So,
I don't even hardly play that one.
okay, so controlling. Getting back to topic, as we've got a fantastic guest here. So the controlling your opponents by shutting down their win condition. That's one way to do it. Another way that you could do that, and I don't know if you had this on your list, Rob, but is Drax, the new Drax from Infinity
Yes.
Gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which
that
does
Drax,
something. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, does something similar, but not exactly the same.
So that's Drax the
The pacifist.
pacifist. I was gonna say pacifier, but no, that's not wrong, right?
No, isn't that a movie?
That is a movie.
Isn't that a movie starring the same actor that plays Drax?
No. I thought that was Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, okay.
That was in the
What's this movie
Pacifier.
called? The Pacifier?
Yes.
The pacifier. Yeah.
All right.
Oh my
I get
god,
the
hold on,
actors
look this up.
confused. Who's
looking-
the actor that plays Drax?
Well,
I don't
it's-
know
it's-
his
It's not
name.
The Rock. Or Vin,
No,
it's not
not The
Vin
Rock.
Diesel.
Oh, it's Vin
I'm
Diesel
looking it
that
up
plays in the
as we
Pacifier.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the
Okay.
Pacifier.
We're totally going off topic.
We're in the weeds
Come
now.
on, Kim. Have you met our podcast? Off topic is where
That's
we shine. Yeah. So okay. So anyway, Drax the pacifist, not the pacifier. Different actor, different name, all those different things. It's a 3-cost shield with the Infinity Watch affiliation.
Dave
Should I
Bautista,
read
by
it,
the way.
Rob?
The actor's name is Dave Bautista, by the way.
That's it.
Oh,
There
He's a
we go.
wrestler. Wasn't he a wrestler?
but he was a wrestler,
We-
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to resolve this before we can carry on.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
So
I'm ready.
he's a wrestler, and then Dwayne the Rock Johnson is a wrestler.
Yes.
But is he the one that's the pacifier?
No. It's Vin Diesel. The guy from Fast and Furious.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We're clear now?
Who voiced Groot.
I am
Yes.
Groot.
So there's all that we've connected it all now.
It's all connected. Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you like me to read the card, Rob?
Let's go. Drax the pacifist. What does he say?
Okay. Drax the pacifier. When fielded, choose an opposing card, canceling all previous choices. Your opponent may not purchase or field that character until Drax leaves the field zone. And he's a 3-cost shield. I think I said that. He also has a global ability, which is pay 2 shields. Target character die gets +1A and +1D.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a similar reprint, but not exactly the same wording as a card from the previous modern meta, which was Blob, right?
Appetite
Yes.
for Destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Blob was a 4-cost, but the difference in the wording means that Drax cannot affect actions. He can only affect character cards.
Mhm.
Right. Yes.
I didn't see that distinction. That's good.
Yeah, there's been some chatter about it, and the
Okay.
Blob was ruled on that it could affect actions because of the wording, because the wording was a little more
Right.
vague.
Mhm.
But then with Drax coming out with the wording being specific that your opponent cannot purchase or field that character,
Gotcha.
that meant that it couldn't affect an action die.
Godcatcher for the win.
I'm shaking my head,
Why? 'Cause
We
I
can
said
talk about
Godcatcher
Becky.
for the win.
but we're not talking about Godcatcher.
Yeah, so I guess that Blob version, Appetite for Destruction, would work on Godcatcher, correct?
It would, yeah.
But Drax would not, because it's not a character, right?
That's right.
Right. It's a token.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's
Character token.
it's an action die that fields a token.
Yeah.
So anyway. So that's another way to control your opponent's win condition by preventing them from being able to purchase or field it. What other ones did you have there, Rob?
Are we talking about, we still looking at limiting your opponent's win con?
Yeah.
Okay, so another popular card, of course, is Black Widow Agent.
Oh, my
Okay.
favorite.
Sorry, what was that, Kim?
My favorite.
Kim
Your
knows all
favorite.
about that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah,
has
that's
2
right.
abilities.
Kim's got
Bittersweet.
some recent experience.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
You better talk about that one, Kim.
Why? You want to bring up, wounds that are,
No,
Heal.
we just need to read both abilities. That's all.
All right. Would you like me to read it?
Go for it.
All right. So Black Widow Agent is actually a promo card. I can't remember off my head which promo pack it came from or which op kit it came from.
Super Spies, I think.
I think. I don't remember. So she's a three cost fist. And while Black Widow is active, reduce damage from opposing character's ability by 1. Your opponent can't target Black Widow with global abilities. You read that second part, folks? Your opponent can't target Black Widow with global abilities. Just read that part of the card.
Yeah, and then when
Right.
your opponent tries to force block or force attack that Black Widow,
Make sure.
or give it extra attack or something like that with global abilities to KO something it's blocking or whatever. None of those things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So any character abilities can be range.
Mm-hmm.
That
Attune.
deals 1 damage. Attune. So range is when you attack with a character with range. It deals X amount, depending on what the range value is, to a character die.
Yeah.
So it'll take that 1 or a 2 to a 1. Attune. Yep. Attune.
Yeah, attune is when you use an action die, deal 1 damage to target character die or player.
Jocelyn's favorite, Iceman.
Hey, we have the king of Iceman on this call.
Really?
Iceman top 4 Worlds 2019.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
It was a valuable card.
Iceman right on schedule. It
did-
still
did
is a
well.
valuable card.
It is, for sure.
So was
I
Black
mean-
Widow out before or after that?
Before.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it would have been around.
It was legal during that event. Mhm.
Did you come up against any of it? Do you remember, Rob?
I'm sure I did. I just
Yeah.
don't recall off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 2
Yeah, it
years
was-
ago now.
I know, but it was
It's been a long time
fun
since we had an official event.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that card was definitely around. So yeah, it'll reduce the damage by 1 with any of those abilities. So if you have any of those direct damage win cons that we've talked about, like Iceman, like Attune, like Range, like Jubilee. Jubilee there's 2 of them, right?
Yep. Yeah, there's 2.
So one's
fielded.
when fielded. We said that in unison.
Did we really?
Yes.
It's like you reversed it.
See, I'm not looking it up. Let's see if we get it. When fielded, deal 2 damage to target opponent or character die. I didn't read it, so is that right?
I believe that's correct. That is Jubilee Wondra. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
It says target character die or opponent, so you had it in the opposite order, but yes. And then the other one is, well, actually, both of them. These are all from the X-Men Forever campaign box. Jubilee Jubilation Lee. When she attacks, she deals 1 damage to your opponent for each other attacking bolt die. And then Jubilee, when she's active, when you field a bolt character die, deal 1 damage to target opponent. So those are all things that would get soaked up or at least halved by a Black Widow agent, which is a good control piece. And to Rob's point, something your opponent is going to want to remove, but not with a global ability.
That's right. Second part. Not with the global ability. She's good. She slows down your opponent. So hopefully by you slowing down, you're ramping up your side. As you slow them down. She doesn't completely shut them down like a Typhoid Mary or a Drax, but she definitely will slow down your opponent.
Yeah, it's like a stalling tactic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 3 of us have discussed this before, but I believe that Black Widow Agent was the sole reason why we didn't see as many Venerable Dreadnought cards at competitive events, right? And that one grants all your active character dice a range 1, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. Venerable Dreadnought
neutralizes that card. So.
Yeah, Venerable Dreadnought, Custodian of Knowledge. While he's active, your active character dice have range 1. Which is super awesome, and it's very effective when it goes off, but you have a Black Widow agent in the field, and immediately all of that range 1 becomes range 0. So you can't even use range to get rid of Black Widow. Right?
That's right.
So yeah, but I definitely think that she was a good answer in the meta to some of that 1 ping damagey thing. And I think we talked about this on a previous podcast, Kim, when we were talking about my Songbird team with the Seething Corruption and the Orc
deals
Knob.
2 damage across the board.
Yeah, so I was trying to do that because I was so cognizant of the fact that Black Widow Agent would shut down anything that does 1 damage across the board. But as I learned different ways that I could manage that Black Widow Agent, control it, if you will, then I would went back to using something that did 1 damage, like Grey Hunter or Manchun.
Yeah, good card.
Speaking of Grey Hunter's effect triggers when he is KO'd, and one way you can control things is by KOing stuff, right?
Correct.
Knocking it out. So just popped into my head here is the Hope Rachel combo, right? So Hope.
Refresh me on that one.
So Hope Summers is from the X-Men X-Men Forever campaign box. There's 3 of them, but the one in particular we're talking about here is Pluripotent Echopraxia. So when fielded, you choose an X character card on your team, replacing all previous choices. That's X-Men affiliation. Hope Summers gains that character's text box in addition to her own. She retains that text box until she is fielded again, even if she's no longer active. So she's a 3 cost, which is great, and people were pairing her up, people like me, were pairing her up with other people.
Not me.
Rachel Summers, Phoenix. No, that's not it.
Oh, Prestige.
Prestige. Rachel Summers Prestige, which is a 7 cost, also from that same campaign box. 7 cost. Almost impossible to get.
You've purchased it before.
I have. That's part of the reason why this team didn't work for me, is I was trying to make it a win condition as well as a control method. While Rachel Summers is active, if another X-Man character is KO'd, KO all other characters except the Rachel Summers die using this effect. So the idea was you use the 3-cost Hope to copy the 7-cost Rachel, and you get that effect on the 3-cost Hope. And on your opponent's turn, when your opponent passes you priority in the main step, you use the Nihilor Global to KO your Hope Summers, and then all the other, or you to KO a die, sorry, not a Hope Summers, but another Hope Summers or another X-Men affiliated die, and then every character die in the field, your opponent's and yours, go away. So then the hope is that the next turn, hope.
Let's see what you did there.
Accidentally. As always, my puns are accidental. The idea is that then your opponent has nothing in their field, so they can't protect themselves, and you hopefully roll back all of your characters, and then you can just like walk across the empty field and win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a control/win condition, but the win condition part didn't quite get there yet. But one day, maybe.
I still don't understand how you could win with Rachel Hope, but
attack to an empty field, that's how you win. But you have to be able to do it that turn, because otherwise your opponent is then going to roll a shed load of dice.
Yeah,
right?
but you're KOing your characters too.
Yeah, but on your opponent's turn, that's okay.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? If you have to do it on your own turn, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes back around to you, you're drawing your 4 dice plus everything that was KO'd, and you're rolling everything, and hopefully you get a good field of attackers.
Yeah.
The other way this method is sort of a control method is that if you have X character dice in the field, X-Men affiliated character dice, in addition to your Hope or Rachel, it could prevent your opponent from attacking you, because they don't want to KO your X-Men character die, because then all their stuff would be KO'd, right? So it puts your opponent in a position where they have to make bad choices.
That's right. Which is my favorite place to put my opponent, is in a position to make difficult choices.
Absolutely.
The other card that is effective for that too is one of my favorites, which is that Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
the Harley Quinn.
I think is it Gotham City Graduate? Is that the subtext on that one? Subtitle?
I'm pulling it up. Harley Quinn.
Yes, Gotham State. Sorry, Gotham State
Gotham
Graduate.
State Graduate. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Harley Quinn pack.
And when she reads, when Harley Quinn is KO'd, re-roll all active character dice, KO any that roll energy phases. So
again, you can use Nihilor the same way.
Pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself with Nihilor, or if your opponent attacks, then you can block with her.
Maybe Asuka's the new Becky in this conversation.
No, we're going to talk about Becky. Becky's got built-in control and removal.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're on the topic of Harley Quinn, which is a reroll. And one of the biggest control pieces in this new modern is rerolling out your people's characters out of the field. There seems to be a lot of cards out there that have a reroll effect.
Right.
Should we start with Becky, Kim?
We can
get it out of the way.
Harley, though, is she's not common. You don't see her played much.
No, you don't see Harley played much. A lot of people are not playing that, but that's one of the things that I like about Rob's team builds, is that he pulls out cards that, other people aren't playing with and tries to make them work.
I've been trying to make, an effective team out of that Harley Quinn for a while. Much in the same idea that we were just discussing, like with the Hope Rachel combo, of just, using the Nihilor to KO, as many as you can, and then hopefully coming across the line with some attackers, right, that are unblocked. Yeah. So I'm still experimenting with it. Hopefully, if we, in the near future, when we get some new product, maybe there'll be some new cards, and we can brew something using that Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
If she's still modern, so hopefully she'll be modern for a little while.
I feel like they're not going to be able to rotate much out at this point because we haven't got any new product in a while. So I think Modern will stay the way it is for a little while yet. So, okay. So Becky Lynch, made in Ireland, as we know, is a 5-cost shield, and she has Overcrush. I know that shocks everybody listening to this podcast. They've never heard of this card. It's so far under the radar. Well, but what makes
there could be some newer players, right, who haven't maybe got the WWE kit. So
yeah, or maybe these are like future listeners that are listening to this like 2 years in the future, and this card is no longer modern, and like, oh my god, this like WizKids made this card. This is crazy.
Yeah. And if they're listening, hello, future listeners.
Yeah, hello, future people. So. Becky Lynch, made in Ireland, says, when fielded, re-roll up to 2 target superstar dice. Each die that does not roll a superstar face goes to the use pile. Becky Lynch deals 1 damage to your opponent for each die sent to the use pile in this way. And then she has everyone's favorite global, as what did you call it, Kim? She stole your favorite global?
Yeah, from Rip Hunter.
Pay a shield. The first die you purchase this turn is added to your prep area instead of your use pile. So you field her, and then she re-rolls dice, and then dice that go to the use pile deal your opponent 1 damage. So, I mean, then she's got Overcrush. So she's got, like, all of the things. She's a win condition, she's control and removal all in one, plus she's got this awesome prep global. So she is kind of a, what do you call it, not a one-trick pony. She's the whole package.
A jack of all trades?
A jack of all trades.
All encompassing.
Yeah. So Black Widow, speaking of Black Widow agent, this will work against Black Widow because you can reroll Black Widow. It's not a global affecting her. The way that she would eliminate that 1 damage is if Black Widow rolls back.
Yeah.
So that's one way to remove a Black Widow out of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what I think is interesting about this card is that you can reroll up to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you could choose to reroll 0 when you field her, which I think makes her even stronger than some other cards that we might talk about. Hashtag Rare Spider-Man Forever. So you could choose 0 because if you didn't want to reroll something of your own, right? Because it says target, it doesn't say target opposing die. But if you do reroll something of your own and it rolls an energy face, it goes to the use pile and your opponent takes 1 damage.
That's true. I never read it that way. I was 1 damage to your opponent.
For each die sent to the use pile in this way. So the way I read that is it's regardless of whether it's your die or your opponent's die that rolls an energy face.
I never caught that. Good eye, Jocelyn.
Honestly, I didn't catch it until just now
when I was reading
it out loud. But I think that's the literal interpretation of the card, which is what we always have to go with, right? That's how the card reads. And I think that if Becky said you must instead of up to,
then you would do it to your own.
Then this card would not be as strong. Because then you could be in a position where you might have to re-roll your own dice or not be able to field her because part of the cost of that fielding is to re-roll dice, right?
Oh, right, because she would have to re-roll herself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are other cards, I can't think of them right now, but there are other cards in the game that do that. And the one thing that it's not the same when fielded effect, but the rare Spider-Man, Public Menace from Infinity Gauntlet, he has a when attacks ability that's very control-y. And what's great about a when attacks ability is it's really hard to stop. There isn't anything in current Modern that will prevent a when attacks ability from triggering. So when Spider-Man attacks, you get to spin you must spin target character die to an energy phase. So if your opponent has nothing in their field and you have nothing in your own field except Spider-Man, when you attack with Spider-Man, you have to spin him to an energy phase. So, that is a detriment to that card.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
As someone who has played Rare Spider-Man a number of times. I am familiar with all of the different ways that it can backfire on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but what's great about that card is that there are very few ways to stop it from happening. And it's a great way to remove, which, as Rob said at the beginning, is a subset of control. Remove your opponent's die. So that would also remove a Black Widow agent.
Yes. Yeah.
It removes whatever you want.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what level they're on, right?
Yeah. And then because the energy goes to your reserve pool, at the end of your turn, that die is going to go to your opponent's use pile and hopefully get lost in the bag.
Right.
Until your opponent can pull it back out, right?
Yep. But yeah,
so speaking of, yeah. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh no, I was going to say there's a lot of reroll characters out there.
Yeah, or spin down.
Yeah. Energized, reroll all character dice. They are expensive, which is good. Like 5 cost, 7 cost. Yeah, the spin down Black Widow is good, but she only spins down by level.
Which one's that, Kim?
The Black Widow, I don't know the subtext name.
It is Widow's Hunt. She's the rare 2 cost mask. Energize
effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So energize effects trigger when you roll the die on a double energy face. That would happen anytime you roll a die on a double energy face. But in your roll and reroll step, it only counts at the end of your step. So if you, for example, had her in your field for some reason, you fielded her, and Becky Lynch rolled her and she rolled a double energy face, then her effect would go off. Spin target opposing character die down 1 level. If that character die is already level 1, spin it to an energy face of your choice.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's cheap to do what she does, but if it's a level 3 you're trying to get rid of, then it becomes a bit tough to wheel it down.
Yeah.
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 Not a super effective piece of control, is it? Because it would take you so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to hit that energize every time.
Yeah. But people use it. People use it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think if you look at sort of the competitive or higher level gameplay that we're seeing right now online, masks are super prevalent. Mm-hmm. So she's being a 2 cost mask, and people that need to use mask globals or want to use mask globals for their various effects, even if she doesn't energize, she's there to at least make masks, right?
Right. Yeah. Darn those mask teams.
Yeah.
So further to removal, we talked about Harley Quinn, which is a very chaotic form of control, right?
Yeah, and removal.
We're removal. Yeah, we're re-rolling everybody, even
your own.
Yeah, even your own, and that has the potential to basically wipe the entire field, which is awesome. But it might backfire on you, right? You might end up, with a lot of those dice coming back into the field. One of the other pieces of removal that I thought was interesting is Pip the Troll, which is Contagious Debauchery, is the subtitle. However, it's a little more expensive. It's a 5 cost shield. And it says, when fielded, spin up to 2 opposing character dice to energy faces. So that is a guaranteed removal, right? You're spinning 2 opposing character dice to energy faces. So there's no chance of, you're going to roll it. And if it rolls an energy face, put it, KO it or put it to used or whatever. So that's an example of a more laser focused type of removal, right? Much like Becky, right? Much like Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think, another way is, I mentioned that Spider-Man, there's no way to stop the when attacks ability right now. But we've talked a lot about various when fielded abilities. And another type of control is shutting that down, right? So shutting down a certain type of ability if it's prevalent when fielded, right? Mm-hmm. So in Infinity Gauntlet as well, we got a reprint of a previous card, but on a different character this time, and that's Angela, Odin's daughter, who's a 4 cost bolt, and she says, while Angela is active, ignore your opponent's when fielded abilities. So that is also a way, if you expect to be coming up against a lot of when fielded effects, you can build your team and put that onto control. So that would stop the Becky Lynch from when fielded. It would stop the Pip the Troll that you just talked about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Another subset of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised I don't actually see her on much competitive teams. With so much when fielded's out there.
I think you might see more of her if the Godcatcher wasn't so prevalent. You know?
Yeah, there is one way to deal with that. Oh, well, there is one card that can help deal with your Godcatcher tokens.
To deal with Godcatcher? Which card?
What's his name again? He's the green guy.
The green guy.
The green guy?
Oh my gosh, what is his name?
Eddie
from
Guerrero?
D&D
No.
set. Gazer.
Oh, Gazer.
Gazer, yeah.
I just was about... It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yes, the Intimidate Gazer.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I was just about to ask the both of you, what do you think about Intimidate? What are your thoughts, opinions about Intimidate?
So Intimidate is when fielded, remove target opposing character die from the field zone until end of turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Jocelyn.
So do we like Intimidate? Do we not? What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it as a tactic. I think it's really about timing it at the right point and getting the die into your prep area or into your clear and draw with the right 4 dice or whatever it is, bag control, what have you. Because I think that's the one place where that Intimidate can fall down is if you don't have it at the right point. The great thing about Intimidate is there is a ruling that although Intimidate triggers when fielded, it is not a when fielded ability. So Angela that we just talked about wouldn't stop an Intimidate die from doing its intimidation.
Interesting.
Because it's a keyword.
Yep.
As opposed to a ability that says when fielded X happens.
Yeah, it's not text on a card. It's a keyword.
So that is, I don't know if it's a ruling or the general accepted definition. I'd have to go back and double check, but that's generally how it's played. And it's a 2 cost, which is great, because it's easy to get. I like to pair that Gazer with the Supreme Intelligence Global, so that if he does end up in my use pile, then I can use the Supreme Intelligence Global on my opponent's turn to pay 2 generic energy and prep a die that costs 2 or less from my use pile to my prep.
And what effect does Intimidate have on the Godcatcher, the dreaded Godcatcher?
on any token, the ruling has been that if the token can only exist in the field zone.
Okay.
So if the token is removed from the field zone, it disappears. So normally when you intimidate a die, it comes back at the end of the turn. If you intimidate a token, the token disappears and doesn't come back.
So that would be an effective thing to use against Godcatcher teams if you just had a couple cheap Intimidate characters, right?
Yeah.
Field.
Yeah,
That's
or an
amazing.
expensive one. If you can get to it before your opponent kills you with Godcatcher.
True.
Who is it? It's one of the wrestlers, and he does it twice. Is it The Rock?
Oh, there's one that does it twice? Okay. I was looking at one. I was looking at Bret the Hitman Hart, subtitled The Hitman, which has Intimidate, but it also has another effect. It says if you intimidate a sidekick with Bret Hart's Intimidate, prep a die. So I thought that was an interesting card.
Yeah, so that is a good one.
Yeah, but there's another.
I'm looking at The Rock. Know your role. My wrestling voice.
Know your role. Okay.
It's a 6 cost, unfortunately. It has Intimidate, and it says you may use Intimidate twice when you field The Rock.
Right on.
So you can intimidate 2 dice when you field, or tokens when you field The Rock, but you do have to get to that 6 cost. And since we've mentioned the Godcatcher so many times, we probably should mention what the Godcatcher actually is, in case anyone isn't familiar. So it's the Godcatcher Mighty Construct from the Trouble in Waterdeep campaign box. and it's a trap. It's a 2-cost bolt. Is that right?
Is it? Yes. Correct.
No, it's not. That's the wrong one.
Oh,
I want
right.
Godcatcher, famous walking statue, which is the 3-cost bolt, who is also a trap. And so you field it, and then the trigger is you use an action die. So you use an action die, and then the trap goes off, and what the trap does is it gives you a 10A and 10D Godcatcher token that has the following text. When the Godcatcher attacks, target character die must block this turn if able. Right? So all you have to do is put a Godcatcher action die in your field, play an additional action die, and all of a sudden you have a 10 attack, 10 defense character. Right? So
you get all 4 of your Godcatcher action dice rolling through your bag in your field, and you just got a field full of Godcatchers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a 4.
It's
max
nasty.
4.
I know. They should have made it like a max 2. I don't know what they would have.
I think it should be a max 1, personally.
Yeah.
So if it was
I'd
a
go with
max 1, I don't think it would be so oppressive. If you could only have 1 Godcatcher die. And then the other thing I would say is if it was, if the trigger was your opponent uses an action die. And it becomes defensive in that way instead of you using an action die to trigger it. Right?
That would have made it a lot more balanced, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and if you look at the other one, Mighty Construct, which is a 2-cost, the trigger for that one is your opponent attacks with a character die of 7 attack or more, and in that case you get to field the 10 attack, 10 defense Godcatcher token. Right? So that's the defensive Godcatcher. The controlling one.
Yeah. I think they should have both been. Well, I think, okay, here's my proposal. Is one of these should have said in my fantasy, Dice Master cards. One of these should have said.
Jimmy, are you listening? Jimmy O'Brien, paging Jimmy O'Brien. Sincerely, Jimmy. Please listen to Rob. Sincerely, Jocelyn.
I like. Thanks, Jocelyn. I like your opponent uses an action die idea. I think that's good. Perhaps the other one should have said if you attack with a character die with 7A or more. So you would have had to reach for your own character die that has a high attack value.
That's easy.
Just a thought.
Yeah,
I actually
Becky Lynch.
Well, yeah, I guess that kind of.
Yeah, you have a 4-cost Becky. You bring a 4-cost.
I guess so.
Becky.
Yeah.
Spin her up with using Zatanna. She's on her 8/8.
Easier than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a good idea. It is. I think it's a little harder.
Well, maybe they could have bumped the attack value up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway.
Gazers
play around with the numbers.
But I found ever playing a Godcatcher team and I have Gazer on my team, all I'm concentrating on doing is trying to Gazer out those Godcatcher tokens, and it becomes a very boring game.
There is there's a global ability that I think would work really well against this, but it's expensive. It's from the Justice campaign box. Yeah. So the Poison Ivy is called A New Leaf, and she's a 4-cost mask. Her ability doesn't really matter because that's not the purpose of this, but she says while Poison Ivy is active, when an opponent purchases the last die on a card, deal that opponent 3 damage. But the global says pay 2 masks. Once on your turn, you may remove a die on any card from the game. You may not remove the last die on the card. Okay. So you pay 2 masks and you can take away a Godcatcher die before your opponent purchases it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only once per turn.
It's once during your turn. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. If it was once per turn, you might have the opportunity to potentially take 2 of them out before your opponent can buy them. So if the Godcatcher was not a max 1, if it remained a max 4, that could potentially help. But I think if the Godcatcher was a max 1, I don't think it would be as crazy.
No.
So.
It would also help to have I can't remember the card. Maybe you do. The one that puts dice back on the card. Do you recall what one that is?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the player from was he from Michigan? He came up to the
Yeah,
to the
JT.
Canadian Mats. JT, that's his name, JT. He was using that.
Yeah, that card.
Anyway.
I can't remember what it is right now.
It might come to us later, but there was a way you could put the card back to the die back to the card and then remove the die from the game.
Yeah, so immediately following that event, the WizKids Rules Forum put out a ruling that said the card didn't work that way.
Right.
So he was using a card that captured opposing dice and placed them on the card in some way. And then he was using the Poison Ivy Global to take those dice and remove them from the game. And they said that the Poison Ivy Global was intended only to remove dice that belonged to a card from the game.
Like was part of their max whatever dice you mean? Yeah.
Yes, okay. You couldn't capture them.
Right.
And
then remove them that way.
Yeah. So at the event, it was ruled that way. It was ruled that yes, he could. And then afterwards, WizKids came back and said, no, it should work this way. It's not designed to work that way. But yeah, I know which one you're thinking of.
Right.
I'm seeing if I can pull it up in the win. So.
Yeah. Well, Yeah. They ruled against it, so unfortunately we cannot do that. So
no, it doesn't work that way.
So what other forms of control do we have? How about ramp? Do we got anything on ramp?
Controlling ramp?
Yeah, maybe we can define ramp? Does anyone have a good... Did you already talk about ramp in a previous episode?
We did an episode on ramp and churn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right, too. So you talked about swarm, we talked about things like that, investigation. So we could direct listeners back to that episode, right?
Yeah. So how does that connect to control or removal?
That connects to control because you are changing the state of the game or the flow of the game for yourself, right? So you're increasing the number of dice that you're rolling. You're prepping dice. You're churning through your bag faster to get to the dice that you want. So I see that as a form of control.
Yeah, so instead of controlling a die or a card or a ability that you want to control, you're talking more about control of the game state.
Right. So this goes back to an idea I had of when you talk about control, I see control, like I see basically everything as a form of control, or most things as a form of control.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And I see, controlling, obviously controlling your bag, controlling the flow of your dice and how fast you're churning. That is control as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any
and I think, you and I talked about this not that long ago, because you and I were playing a game of Dice Masters. Did we talk about this just the other night?
It's possible.
When we were playing...
I don't recall exactly.
I think we just talked about it because I was playing Atlantis.
That's right.
Right? In the Sidekick team. So I'm not sure when that video is coming out, but Rob and I recorded a video for Dice Station Zebra, and I played a team that was centered around fielding sidekicks and giving them +2A and Overcrush with the new Energized Typhoid Mary from the Play at Home kit. And I was playing the 2-cost Atlantis. This is when you field a sidekick die, draw 2 dice and roll them. And I was using the Lita. I don't remember what her subtext is. What is her?
Now. That is fan favorite.
Lita fan favorite. So
it's a 4-cost bolt.
Yeah, so while she's active, at the end of your roll and reroll step, you can spin any of your psychic dice to their level 1 superstar face. So essentially, any of your psychic dice can become sidekicks at the end of your roll and reroll step as long as she's active. So the purpose of the team, it was literally, that was a one-trick wonder. That was a one-trick pony. It didn't have any extra win conditions at all. So it was put a Lita in the field so that I can put sidekicks in the field, purchase an Atlantis die so that when I field a sidekick, I can draw 2 dice and roll them. And then I eventually get enough energy to buy the Typhoid Mary, which then hopefully rolls on an energized face and gives the sidekicks plus 2A and Overcrush, right? And then I threw in, for good measure, an Avengers ID card, which would allow me to spend a mask and make the sidekicks Avengers. And then if I rolled the Avengers ID card die, I could give the Avengers plus 2A and plus 2D.
And none of this is confusing at all.
No.
There's so many components to this, but it was excellent. Yeah. It went off great. And I think that is a great example of control when it comes to, you're fielding your sidekicks and you're drawing 2 dice and rolling them, right?
Yeah, I built that team specifically so that Nick would be proud of me. Because it's the type of team that requires a whiteboard to explain.
I'm sure
those are his favorite types of team. So
yeah, I was pretty confused at one point. All the things that you were throwing at me.
That was partially my fault because I kept changing the order in which I was doing things, but that was also part of my strategy. Because part of your strategy can be to try and confuse your opponent, right, with what you're doing, and control them by confusing them.
That's right. That's also a form of control.
Kim's been very quiet.
I'm just letting you guys talk.
Have you used that, Kim? Have you used the Lita and is it Lita? Yeah, it's Lita, right? Not Alita.
Yeah, Lita, Atlantis.
Yeah, and Atlantis. You tried that one, Kim?
No, I've never used Lita card before.
Yeah,
so.
What are some of your favorite ramp and bag control options, Kim?
I don't have one.
No.
Not really. Ramp?
Investigation.
No, I never use that. No. Shout out to Ryan. He loves that card.
Yeah.
I don't use that card. No. Because I have to purchase it, and that's. I'm not going to purchase it for 3 costs to ramp.
The one drawback about investigation is, in my eyes, is that you only roll the dice once, right? You don't get a reroll.
Yeah.
Right.
So and that's the same. Yeah, and that's the same case with this Atlantis Wealthy Kingdom. Is you draw 2 dice and you roll them immediately. I mean, it's effective. Like Jocelyn, you were pulling all kinds of dice out of that bag because you had so many sidekicks that you were fielding.
I could make as many sidekicks as I wanted.
Yeah. And it was very effective. You churn through your bag right away. But that's the one downside of that, and also investigation, is you only get 1 shot at it.
Yeah, what I liked about that is that I didn't care if I rolled characters in most cases, because what I was actually trying to do was roll the Energized Face and the Typhoid Mary. So the more, and she's a 5 cost, so the more energy I rolled, the more chance I had to buy another 5 cost die, and then the more sidekicks I fielded, the more chances I rolled to make that die have plus 2/8 Overcrush, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think at one point I was able to do 2 of them in a single turn in one of the games. So
I think so.
Anyway, but yeah, you're right. That is a way to control your opponent by, sort of overwhelming them with how many dice you're rolling and churning through your bag, as opposed to somebody else not being able to do that as well.
Right.
Depending on how they've built their team, right?
That's right.
But you like that Into Battle card.
I do, yeah. And I was just thinking about that one because it's also a prep 2 dice from your bag. So Into Battle is a basic action card. It's a 4 cost. and it reads, prep 2 dice from your bag. If both dice are sidekick dice, prep an additional die. So you have a potential to prep 3 dice. And on burst phase, it directs you to roll all dice prepped this way and place them in your reserve pool. So that is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards.
But it's interesting because you don't like investigation, really, because you only get one chance to roll them. With Into Battle, if you're rolling them, you only get one chance there, too, but you like that one.
I like it because there's a possibility that you don't get a burst face, in which case you're prepping 2 or 3, which I think is better than rolling them right away. But unfortunately, you get that burst face. It says roll. I would like it better if it said you may roll all dice prep this way. So if it gave me the choice, instead of a must. So if it gave me the option, then this card would definitely be, I think it would be, you'd see it on more mats than you do.
Yeah. So, you've converted me on that card. I've been lacking in my Out of the Shadows article series lately, but that one's been on my list. I actually have a draft of that article that I started that I'm going to put out soon. So.
And another one that's adjacent to that I really liked was Power Almighty, which is another basic action card. And that is a 4 cost. And it reads, spin each of your active character dice up 1 level. For each active character die you could not spin up, prep 1 die from your bag. So I almost think that this one is better. It could be better, especially like in the team that you're just talking about, Jocelyn, with the Atlantis and the all the sidekicks. You could use this with Lita, actually. This would be a great pairing with Lita rather than Atlantis, because you could field as tons of sidekicks and then play this action die, and you're prepping a lot of dice because your sidekicks can't spin up, right?
No, sidekick can't spin up, so you have to prep.
So I think this is a very good ramp and prep card. Have you tried that one, Kim? Power Almighty?
Nope.
No. How about Into Battle?
These are too. Nope. They're too expensive. No. That's why I don't. I try to go.
There's a
cheap.
global that can help you with that.
I know, but that takes up a slot.
And also there's a downside to that, right?
My basic actions, I tend to go pretty cheap if I can.
Yeah.
Except for, of course, Orbital Strike Team. That's different. But I wouldn't ramp in that way to pay 4 costs to do it. So.
Right.
Different styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see your point. It is something that I do wrestle with. Like, it's a high cost, but there is value there. So, I guess it all depends on your team build.
Right.
And of course, if you put that Thor global on your team, you're basically giving your opponent those tools as well. You're giving them your global, and you're giving them the basic action.
Yeah.
So that is the downside.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you think about control and removal, which we've kind of been talking about here, I think, the next natural thing that we talk about is global abilities.
Right.
But I hope I'm not jumping over anything that you wanted to cover there, Rob.
No, actually, you know what? I was just one more thing. I was going to give an honorable mention to a favorite card of mine, which is now golden, which is Rip Hunter from the Batman set.
Yeah.
And I believe the name of the card is Navigate the Sands of Time. Do you remember this one, Kim?
Yes. Never used it.
We never used it. Okay. Probably saw it a lot because I think I played it.
Chalkboard is the one I like.
Right, with the global on it. Yeah, this one I played a lot when we first started playing at the store. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I remember you playing this card.
Yeah, and it reads, while Rip Hunter is active, once during your clear and draw step, when you draw dice from your bag, you may send any number of them to the use pile and draw 1 new die for each of them. And I just think that is an amazing churn mechanic, right?
Yeah.
So you pull 4 sidekicks, you say, you know what, I don't want these, chuck them all in the use pile, and you draw 4 more dice. So I really like that card. But then again, it is a 4-cost shield. There is an investment. You have to purchase it. You have to have it come through your bag, and you have to then field it, right? And then hope he doesn't get.
But I mean, he's got a good fielding cost. He's 0/0/1 on his 3 levels, and his defense is good too, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Not bad. You're getting the attack stats aren't great. They're 1, 2, 3, but really you just want him to stay in the field. You want him to be protected.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something to think about.
It is.
Like,
so yeah,
the Lita I was playing with in that other team is really very susceptible because her defense is 1 or 2, so it's pretty easy to take her out.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't take much. A sidekick will KO her.
Yeah. But I just wanted to mention that one real quick. If there's any newer players out there who maybe never got to experience the Batman set, there's a lot of good cards in Batman, and in my opinion, that's one of them. And it's worth going back and getting that one and having some fun with it.
Yeah, the Batman set's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And of course.
Did you like that set?
Oh, the Batman set?
Yeah.
Batman set? Yeah. Was there some miracle from that set?
Yes.
Yes. Also one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So further to Rampant Churn and all this stuff, I believe in a previous episode, the two of you covered Professor X.
The OG Professor X?
Yeah, the original Professor X.
I believe we did talk about that, yeah.
It was just a couple episodes ago, yeah. So we probably don't need to go into it here, but that is definitely, one of the classic examples of ramp and churn, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you wanted to talk about globals as well, right?
Yeah, so we did do an episode on globals, and we talked about global abilities, but there are specific globals that help you with control and or removal.
Right.
So I think if the first type that come to my mind, which I think we did cover in the global episode, but are definitely a subset of control and removal, are force attack and force block.
Right.
Or must attack and must block, right?
Right.
Or static field.
Yeah, which I think we forgot in that episode until the very end. But so to force attack a die to get rid of it, or to, if you have something you want to KO and maybe you don't have a Nihil or a global on your team to allow yourself to KO it on demand, you need something to attack perhaps so that you can block. So in Modern, we have that in 3 different energy types. Did you know that, Kim?
I did not.
So the new Slingers basic action card from the Play at Home kit has a force attack, or target character die must attack this turn if able, which is a mask energy, and that same global is also on the Doctor Strange from Infinity Gauntlet. I believe on all 4 versions. Common, uncommon, rare, super rare. So we have a mask version. We have a bolt version, which is on, I think it's Scott Hall from the WWE set.
That's right.
And then we have a fist version, which is on a different Black Widow, but that one is limited to once per turn. Yeah. And that one is on a Black Widow, again, I think 2 or 3 of the cards from the Avengers Infinity campaign box.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them? Okay. So that's the fist version. So you have 3 different energy types depending on what your needs are, and if you need the die to attack, just 1 die to attack, or if you need multiple dice to attack. And you would play that global in your opponent's main step when priorities pass to you to make something attack. Unless it's what, Kim? What can you not force attack?
Oh, right. Black Widow.
Black Widow agent.
You know what I should do?
She cannot be targeted.
I should highlight it not on the card, but I should highlight my sleeve and maybe put big bold letters on the sleeve or something like that, just to put it in my face.
Get one of those gold Sharpies and just circle it on the sleeve. Yeah.
If I had an extra copy, I would
Circle the
totally
text.
just totally I don't know, just paint it and just write that on it.
Yeah.
I think we've all been guilty of forgetting about that ability, though. I know I have.
Yeah.
I definitely have, because you just pay attention to the first part, right, and then you kind of goes in the back of your mind the second part. So
Yeah.
I can totally see how it happens.
So that's a great way, especially if you want your opponent to do something on their turn that they might not want to do, right? Like KO your X-Man because you have Hope Summers copying Rachel Summers in the field, and you don't have that Nylor Global. So that's one way to look at sort of the globals as control. The opposite would be the force block or the must block, and is the only one we have on that one Booker T?
It is.
Okay. The only global ability that requires this, or that does this, is the Booker T Global, which is from the he's a ringside announcer basic action card from the WWE set, and his global is pay a shield, target superstar must block this turn if able. And Superstore is WWE speak for character.
Superstore?
Superstar. Superstar.
I heard it too, Kim. You're not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I heard it too. I'll verify that you.
All
heard
right. Thank you.
Superstar.
See, at least we have a third person here. It's all right.
Target Superstore must block if able. Is that what I said?
We have superstores in Canada. If in case you're wondering where may have that come up from.
Yeah.
I was at a Superstore today because that's a brand of the company that I work for. So I might have said Superstore by mistake, but it's way too late and I am not working. So it is Superstar. So that's what it's supposed to say. Superstar. So that's the blocking. And again, if you attack and you want something specific that your opponent has to block it so that you can get rid of it, so you can, KO it with your damage or what have you, that would be a good one to use, that global. And then that pairs well with other things that they're when blocked, right? So I'm thinking about Danny Moonstar.
Mm-hmm.
Emphatic illusion casting. 2-cost mask. When she's blocked, re-roll the blocking character die. If it rolls an energy phase, place it in the use pile and deal 2 damage to its controller. That is a particular favorite of a friend of ours, Ben, from the UK.
Who is using to force my Black Widow to block. Just saying. Yeah.
So maybe not such a good friend. Also from the Dice Masters United podcast. So that's, it's a control with the blocking, and you add it with the force block or however it is you want to make the dice block. But then you also have the damage, so it also becomes a win condition. And it's a 2-cost, which is awesome.
The first card I think about is Deadpool card. We're X-Force. So when he's blocked, he gains +3A and Overcrush.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And you just use Bizarro to flip his A and D because his D is actually better. So, the Bizarro Global.
Yeah. He actually has a global on himself that's advantageous.
Yes. Right? Pay a fist deal.
Once he's blocked?
Yeah. Play a fist, deal 2 damage to target blocking character die, so you can get some more Overcrush.
Yeah,
dealing damage.
Yeah, reduce the defense of your blocking character die.
Yeah. Yeah, and now you can do as much as you can as long as you have enough fists to do it.
Yep.
I'm surprised I haven't seen that card more often on people's mats.
Who was playing that for a while, Kim? There was a lot of it being... Was it Elliot online?
I don't remember. I've played it a few times.
I think it was Elliot who's been playing online, and he was playing some of that for a while and was using it to great effect.
Yeah, it's an easy one to do. It's not that complicated, but it's a fun card.
Yeah. Are there any globals that you like to use for control, Rob?
Oh, I can't think of any right now. Can you remind me of some? Maybe there's some that I'm not thinking of. But definitely Nylor. I love Nylor because Nylor works with my favorite Harley Quinn. So, did we read Nylor? I don't remember if we read that one.
We didn't read it, but if you want to, go for it. I think we talked about it.
The global is pay a mask, and once per turn you may KO a character die you control. And I think, a lot of newbies, or like new players, would be saying, well, why would I want to do that? Because that's probably what I would have said when I first started playing this game. I would have said, why would I KO my own character? And then you start looking at the effects and you go, well, if it's KO'd, then something negative happens to your opponent, right? So
yeah. Sidebar.
I do
I've
like
told
that
this
global
story on the podcast before, but when Rob and I first learned to play Dice Masters, we were at Fan Expo in Toronto, and we were staying at a hotel, and we picked up a Justice League starter set because Rob said, I heard about this game on a podcast. We should try it. And we got it home, and we opened the rule book, and we were like, I have no idea. How does this work? We were so
really broke
confused.
our brains. Because we
were
had nobody
looking
to
at
teach
YouTube
us,
videos. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But once we figured it out, it was like, oh, yeah, it all fell into place.
Yeah. So, there were lots of times in the beginning when we didn't use globals, we didn't use action dice, we didn't really even use abilities at some point. We just played these epically long games of like 3 or 4 hours sitting at the kitchen table with walls of characters focused against each other until I do the patented Jocelyn move, which is I'm just going to attack with everything.
Yep.
And then you KO it all, and then the next turn you win. So...
Yep.
I don't use that move as much anymore.
No, it happens sometimes. If the game is running a little long, you'll go in for a push, and it'll be your doom, unfortunately.
Sometimes
it happens.
I've also seen you've done it. Yeah, I was just gonna say you've done it recently too.
I think I just did it recently, and I think that game would be posting up on Dice Station Zebra, probably 2 days after this podcast goes out.
Yep.
I think. Anyway,
another type of control and removal for a global ability would be in Modern the Wand global.
Right.
So Wand says pay a bolt, deal 1 damage to target character die, lose 1 life. So this is a more balanced version of a previous global, which was on the Magic Missile card. Also a Dungeons and Dragons card, which just said pay a bolt, deal 1 damage to target character die. And that was a very important part of your Iceman team.
Right. It was.
Back in the times of the 2019, before times.
Yep. So if there's no more Magic Missile, then that Iceman card might not be as effective. But there's still ways to do damage to your own characters, right? Through a tune, thrown brick, things like that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people are pairing it up now with the Turk Barrett from Infinity Gauntlet, which says when you spend a mask to use a global ability, deal 1 damage to target character die.
Oh, nice.
So you put Turk Barrett in the field with Iceman, and then in your attack step, you just like spam any type of global you can that is a mass global and spend mass to do it. So that's like a Clayface global to bring a die in on double energy, the Avengers ID card global to make a die an Avenger.
Right.
Anything that you can do with a mask energy, any of those mask globals that you can use in your attack step will allow you to deal 1 damage to your Iceman, and then your Iceman does 2 damage to your opponent. So.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that way. So that card is still effective. It's still effective with Wand, too, because as long as you're 1 life ahead of your opponent.
Yeah, just don't kill yourself.
Right. Hashtag win.
Yeah, true enough. So still on the topic of globals, and also maybe circling back to removal, is a couple of cards that I like. They're both exactly the same. They just have different names. And it is Excessive Force and Excessive Ordnance. And they're both basic action cards. And they read deals 6 damage to target character die, which should be enough to remove a character from the field. Should be. In most cases. And the global. Yeah. Darn that, Becky. Right?
Only on level 1. Level 1 will do it if she's on level 1.
We'll have to find a way to spin her down and then use it. But also the global is valuable too because it's a pay a bolt and the target character die gains +1 attack until end of turn. So, and one of my like I touched on earlier is in my concept of all things or most things are control. How do you feel about buff globals? Do you see that as a form of control?
I've never thought about it in that way.
Yeah. I looked at it from the point of view of you are controlling the amount of damage that you're doing, right? So your sidekick is unblocked, it comes through for 1 point of damage, and then you get to throw a few globals on it. And maybe buff it up to a higher damage value, right?
Yep.
And also it works the other way. You can buff your defense too, right? If you use, I think some of the D&D globals can add a +1 to your defense, things like that.
Yeah, or the Drax global that we talked about at the beginning of the episode here, which is pay 2 shields, give target character die +1A, +1D.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's an even better buff. Well, you got to pay 2 shields, though.
But you get the +1 attack and the +1 defense.
Right. It's a good one.
Or the global that I love that I always forget the name of the guy.
Primaris Aggressor?
That's him.
Is it Primaris Aggressor or is it Primaris Repulsor?
One of the Primaris is.
It's the
From
two
the Primaris
fists.
family.
Oh, yeah, you gotta pick
it is Primaris Aggressor.
Yeah. Oh, all character dice. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
once
that.
per turn, all character dice get +1 attack.
Mm-hmm.
Kim has that on her orbital strike team.
Yep.
We didn't talk about, energy for globals and controlling that as well. There's a couple of things in current modern that do that. So, often when you're playing a higher level, you will hold energy back for globals on your opponent's turn. So there's 2 cards in particular that will get rid of that energy for you. So there's Istrid Horn. Istrid Horn is from the D&D set. Istrid Horn Deck Collector. She says, when fielded, move target energy die in your opponent's reserve pool to their use pile. So that moves a single energy die from the reserve pool to the use pile, so it gets rid of it when you field her so that your opponent can't use a global ability. But I like the Eddie Guerrero better. Eddie Guerrero is I Steel. And he's when attacks, because you may have heard earlier that when attacks abilities currently can't be stopped. When Eddie Guerrero attacks, move all energy dice from your opponent's reserve pool to their use pile. So the last competitive team that I played, I had this Eddie Guerrero, I had Rare Spider-Man, and I had Venerable Dreadnought. And all 3 of those things trigger when attacks. So as the active player, you get to choose the order. So if I had something super annoying in my opponent's field, like a Black Widow agent, for example, I would spin that die to an energy phase first with Spider-Man's ability. Then I would use Eddie Guerrero's ability to put that die in your opponent's use pile because they can't have any energy in their reserve pool. And then I would trigger my range with the Venerable Dreadnought. So that was a pretty lethal combo, but you did have to get 2 4 costs and a 2 cost in the field at the right time to make it happen. So that Eddie Guerrero gets rid of all that energy in your opponent's reserve pool for the global that Kim talked about a minute ago, which was Static Field. So what does Static Field do, Kim?
Static Field is pay a mask and remove target character die from the attack zone. I forget the end of the...
Yeah. Attack zone. So its target character die is no longer attacking or something like that. Is the wording.
Remove target attacking character die from combat.
There you go.
So yeah,
now you can control that with 2 cards. Do we know what those 2 cards are?
You can.
Ooh, it's a quiz.
You can control what?
Global abilities.
Oh, okay.
How can you stop a static
Polaris?
field? Nope. Well, that's not what I'm thinking about, but okay.
Well,
what's
How about-
Polaris read?
Polaris is while she's active, each player may only use one global ability per turn. Polaris, Hail, Queen of Mutants. 4-cost shield.
I wasn't thinking about
Wow.
that one.
You weren't thinking
There
about
you
that one? What one are you thinking about, Rob?
I think Kim might be getting at Nefarious Broadcast.
Yep.
That's the one? Okay.
That's one of them, yep.
And
Okay,
that one
so Nefarious
reads...
Broadcast.
Yep.
You got it, Rob?
Oh, sure, yeah, it's a 2-cost. And it is cancel any persistent global ability effects. Neither player may use global abilities until end of turn. So, yeah, that cancels anything that's already been put in place, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And anything that could be used going forward. But now be
And
careful
what's
with
the other
that
one?
one because you want to do all your stuff first. Use your globals first, then use that action die before you pass priority or do anything else. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
just remember to do that. Istrid Horn. When fielded, you may choose a global ability. If you do, it cannot be used this turn and any effects immediately end. Money Lender.
Oh,
That's a good one. There was one in was it the Mighty No, it might have been in the X-Men First Class set, so that one's golden now, but it was the Blackbird. It was an action die, and it had a global on it that said pay something.
Generic, wasn't it?
Might have been a generic, one generic. And you basically blank
Yes.
a global, right?
Yes, it is one generic. Pay one generic, target global ability cannot be used until the start of your next turn. Use this global ability only once per turn.
Yeah, so that was a handy thing to use to stop globals.
Indeed.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can control and remove.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've got
if we
one
missed
more.
any.
I've got one more idea of control if you're ready for it.
I'm ready.
Okay. Kim, are you ready?
Ready?
Okay, it's a bit out there, but let me know what you think of this. Instead of using game pieces for control, well, maybe not directly game pieces, but how about using the steps in like using the different parts of the main step in a very effective way to control the game? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Can you give us an example?
So in the main step, right, we can do so this is valuable for probably for newer players because it took me a while to really wrap my head around this, but in the main step, all those components of the main step, you do not have to do them in order, right? You can do those in any order that you choose, the active player chooses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So fielding characters, using action dice, purchasing dice, things like that, and using globals. So you can do those in any order possible. So for example, just as like an easy example, so you do your roll and reroll step, and you have some character dice on character faces in your reserve pool. And let's say some of those character dice have a tune, right? But you also have action dice that rolled on their action face. Now, it's obvious to us you would field your attuned characters and then use your action dice, right?
Well, you would say it's obvious, but
Well, it's obvious to
sometimes even seasoned players such as myself forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easy to forget. Absolutely. Yeah. Or going back to the previous example I used of one of my favorite cards, which is the Harley Quinn Gotham State Graduate. Let's say I had her in the field, or let's say I rolled her. She's on her character face. I have other character dice, and I can make a choice to field her before I field my other characters, and then I'll use the global window, right? And let's say I use the Nihilor global, which I can use to KO Harley Quinn, which then means that we have to re-roll all our active character dice, right? Which could potentially KO your opponent's field. And then I would go back to fielding, and I could field the rest of my characters, and hopefully there's not enough blockers so I could get damage through.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a few examples that I came up with. So I think that when you're in the main step, the order of things, you can select the order of things in such a way that it could drastically change the game. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I see it more controlling on your end, not the opponent's side. You're controlling what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yep. But I still see that. I mean, I'm kind of pushing the boundaries of what we consider control.
Mm-hmm.
But, I do sort of see that as kind of a form of control.
It is. And I think it's a form of control and a form of strategy too, right? Like when do you choose to pass priority in your main step? Because, you could certainly throw your opponent off by passing them priority before you do anything.
That's
right?
True.
You roll and re-roll and then pass priority first. And then your opponent passes back. But then as soon as you do something, you have to pass back at some point, right? Yeah. So.
Right.
But that does make a difference, and that can put your opponent off their game if they're not expecting you to pass priority when you do, or if you do something that they aren't expecting, that can throw them off, and that's a method of controlling the game state.
And I would I have another example of I see newer players do this a lot, like when we have new players down at the store. If they have, like, if there's an action die that gives a buff and or an overcrush ability, I see people applying that in the main step. Mm-hmm. So I always, give them, a little bit of gentle coaching and say, oh, you might want to hold on to that until the attack step, right? So because it is more advantageous to apply that after blockers are declared, right?
I need some gentle nudging. I do that all the time.
I know, right? It's easy to do. You're in the heat of the moment.
You know what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, I just saw that as, further a piece of control, because you are, you're choosing how to do things, and it does affect the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I never really thought about it as what you do controls the game. I always just think about controlling your opponent.
Right.
Like, prepping dice to me doesn't sound like controlling myself.
Yeah, it's not the initial thing.
I gotta calm myself down, I can get chaotic. Yeah, I never saw it that way.
The thing that really, helped broaden some of my horizons when it comes to this game is, and I know, like, Jocelyn and I have talked about this many times, but there was that one particular episode of the Double Burst podcast, and I think you talked about that with the Double Burst guys, right? When they were on the show?
We did. Yeah, when they went through the rule book and the turn order.
Yeah, and they did a whole episode on the turn order, and it really just changed the way that I thought about that. And it made me see the game, differently. And like we touched upon earlier, to go back to Arj and Lucan, that really exposed the underlying mechanics and what was the other one? The hidden complexities?
Something like that.
Yeah. And
it's been too long since I heard a Rolling Thunder episode is the problem.
I know. We need one. We need another episode. Not that we're putting pressure on those guys, but, we would like to hear them. But anyway, yeah, so back to Double Burst. I mean, that was a really good episode, and I miss hearing those guys' podcast,
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job, and they had some good discussions on that show. So.
Yeah, and I think, Kim, like, for a future episode in our team building series, I think it would probably be a worthwhile endeavor to update that type of episode that Double Burst did, because since they did that episode, there's been new mechanics introduced, right? That especially in the attack step, that trigger different windows and things like that, like the infiltrate window, the tag out window, those types of things that are a little bit different and extra that were not there before. So maybe we can do that in another episode.
With a whiteboard.
With a whiteboard.
It'll have to be a YouTube
That would
video.
be hilarious if we did that like in person on a whiteboard and we videoed it.
We could do that post-pandemic. Or once we're vaccinated or whatever.
It reminds me of, you watch that. You guys watch Big Bang Theory, right?
I have seen it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it.
Yeah, when Sheldon and I forget his girlfriend's name used to do those
Amy.
flag things.
Fun with flags.
Yeah, Neil had the whiteboard in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Fun with Flags. Yeah.
Fun with Dice
Yeah.
Masters. Turn
There was
order.
always a there was always a those were interesting.
Yeah.
So but yeah, definitely I think we could do something like that. That would be fun to do. Maybe we could even enlist Matt to help us with his the tech that he's using for Keyword Corner.
The skills.
Yeah, all his
We'll get our
skills.
people on that.
Yeah. We'll have our people talk to our people. So
Interdepartment communication.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
We have
Awesome.
different departments we gotta hit, to go through.
Yeah, but Kim's our common thread. She does the board games, she does the dice social, she does the podcast.
Yeah.
There's
The
other
drawing.
things.
Don't forget the drawing.
Yeah.
That's not Dice
Is that
Masters
every-
related, though.
Is that every second week, Kim? The drawing?
Every other Monday, yeah.
Every other Monday.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Monday that the podcast doesn't come out.
That's
Kim
right. That's
does
a good
the
way to
drawings.
put it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you are, looking for something to do on a Monday evening around 9 o'clock Eastern time, and you've already listened to Ministry of Dice, because it's the same week that Ministry of Dice comes out, then you can go over to our Twitch channel and you can watch Kim with Draw Everything with Super K, where she has been spending some time working on her drawing skills, and they are mad skills, I tell you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm super impressed at your drawing.
I'm nowhere anywhere good, but it honestly it relaxes me. Like this Monday, honestly, I wasn't feeling it. I was debating to do it, and you know what? I just get into the groove,
And look what happened. You do like a fantastic gambit.
yeah, I can't wait to finish
Awesome.
coloring him. I can't wait to finish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he looks
exactly.
fantastic. So Kim's got her fingers in all the different pies.
Mm-hmm. Yummy
After
pie, I hope.
sanitizing and washing. So
Don't eat my pie. No,
it's probably a pie that I baked.
probably.
Yeah. That's just the way we do things here. It's how we roll.
It's how I get paid. No,
Yeah. Yeah,
Get
Kim
paid in
gets
pies.
paid in baked goods. Yeah, for all of the work that she does on the back end of the podcast, which I don't think I've thanked you for lately, Kim, but Kim does all of the technical stuff to make sure that this podcast gets out on time. I just show up and talk, and sometimes I write the article. So we could not do this podcast without Kim.
thank you.
You're welcome. And this podcast we couldn't have done without Rob, because certainly everything that you've shared with us today, Rob, you really helped us sort of stretch our thoughts on what control is in this game, and not just sort of the entry level control that Kim and I probably would have talked about if you weren't here, but also sort of expanded our understanding and our thought process on control as a whole. So
It's great. Well, I enjoyed
awesome.
speaking with the both of you, and as usual, we always have these conversations, and it's always very enlightening to me as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, it's been great to have you.
Well, it's been great being here.
I think that you're probably our best prepared guest.
It's possible. I wouldn't say I'm the best delivery guest, but I think you've had some great guests on this.
We have, but we're
And
super happy to have you.
You've had some great guests, and not to pick favorites or anything, but I still feel that if you ever had a third chair, I think Craig's your guy.
Yeah.
Craig was really
shout out
good
to
on that
Craig.
episode. Yeah,
Craig
I
was
really
our
enjoyed
first
that.
guest.
I like listening to Craig, and I liked hearing his thoughts on things. So that was very good.
Yeah, actually, Craig also seemed very prepared as we look back on that. He had a lot of questions and thoughts to ask us, and we really felt like it was a double and dice with Craig, and we were the guests that time. So
The hot seat.
For sure.
yeah, it was good though. It was great to have Craig on, and we've had a lot of fantastic guests. So we hope to continue that, and we would love to have you back sometime in the future, Rob.
Well, I look forward to it.
Awesome. And then we'll have to have Kim over on Dice Station Zebra.
Yeah, as soon as we can have some games again in person, we'll have to get some gameplay going over there.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
Any other final thoughts on Control?
I'm good. I think I've said as much as I can. How about you, Kim?
I'm sure if we missed something, we would hear it.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here, Kim?
The mailbag?
All right.
I don't think we have
mailbag
much in the mailbag today.
No, it was a little lighter this week. Let's start with Nick, because Nick started his comment to me by saying, "I'll try to keep this one shorter, haha." So I guess he felt maybe his last comment was quite long.
That still looks quite long. That's almost like 3 paragraphs there.
Yeah, but that's less than the last one we had.
Did he happen to include a flowchart at all?
No,
I don't
there
see it.
were no flowcharts.
Any flowcharts of how his team works or anything?
Yeah, there was no flowcharts of how the team works, and there was no mathematical equations in this one. So he was commenting on our last episode, which was about global abilities, and I'm going to paraphrase some of this. So in our episode, we did reinforce that global abilities are a really important part of your game, but it's also very important that you know how to use your global better than your opponent, or can use it to better effect. And he said, you said this in the podcast, but he feels it's worth another mention. If a global you bring is too good, maybe add a way to stop your own global. Right?
Sounds reasonable.
And it's also a good idea to practice with or consider other popular globals that the opponent might bring. Can they help your team? And, if they bring them, can you use them to your advantage, which we talked about that. So, I think definitely that was something to call out. He also said, if everyone else is likely to bring the global, do you need to bring it too? You might save a card slot with that one. And I think that is a really good point. And I know Rob and I have talked about this in the past, and I think, Kim, you and I have talked about it as well, is, certain times you build a team and you don't put the global on it because you expect your opponent to bring it. And in the most recent episode of what I'm pretty sure was the DM United podcast, the DM United crew talked about a tournament a few years back where there were a couple of really popular globals back in the time of Professor X, and there was something else. I can't remember which global it was they talked about. And they said that they got to this tournament and nobody brought the globals because they assumed their opponent would have them. And the games turned out to be a little tricky because no one had access to the globals. So,
That's awesome.
So that was interesting. That was quite a while ago. I can't remember exactly how long ago, but you can check out the DM United podcast for that feedback. So the second thing that he brought forward, Nick did, if we go back to Nick's comment, was an important realization that you're unlikely to purchase a die from every character on your team. So at a certain point in the game, you should stop buying dice altogether and just save energy for globals, which is something that I learned the more competitive play that I get. And there are lots of times where I stop buying dice, even though there's still dice on my cards, because I don't want to bog my bag down. I maybe don't have enough churn to get through my bag, and I want to make sure what I'm buying is worthwhile. Maybe those energies are better used for globals, or better used just sitting there not doing anything than me over purchasing stuff. So it's perfectly fine to bring a card only for the global, like Becky Lynch. Sarcasm in brackets.
You only bring Becky for the global. Only one.
Well, this is what I said. I know that the rules say that you have to have a minimum of 1 die per card, right? That's what it says.
Supposedly.
So if you're playing in an online tournament, and you're only bringing Becky for the global,
I do.
then you should have a max 19 dice team and not put any Becky dice on your card.
That's how I play in WDA.
Yeah.
Anything that has globals that I'm only using globals for, I don't bring dice for it.
Yeah. Nick adds that adding more globals tends to increase efficiency for both players. And then he talked about ways to stop the opponent from using globals. So he talked about a different Pip the Troll from Infinity Gauntlet, which is the one that increases the cost of an opponent's globals by 1. So I can't remember what the subtitle on that one is, but I'm familiar with that card. There's the Polaris.
Prince Gofern, it's called.
Prince Gofern, yeah. So when he's active, your opponent's globals cost 1 more to use. Polaris, which we talked about today, limits both players to 1 global per turn. Eddie Guerrero, which we also talked about, to remove opposing energy, and Istrid Horn to stop 1 global for the rest of the turn, and Nefarious Broadcast. So, Kim, you had some of those in your comments there, and I completely forgot that I'd read that from Nick.
They're all control cards.
Yeah. Yeah. Control is a very important part of this game. You can't go into this game and just have a win condition and ways to make your win condition better and expect to always do well, right? You have to have a way to prevent your opponent from doing what they want to do, or stop your opponent from stopping you from what you want to do.
I'm blanking right now, but wasn't there a card that put a tax on the globals? Do you recall which one that is?
The Pip Patrol that we just talked about?
Was it? I thought there was a different one.
There probably was a different one.
Was there one in Golden? I'm trying to think of one from Golden. I know there's Pip, but
Oracle?
Was it Oracle?
Oracle.
She has some good cards.
Batman,
all 3 of her
right?
cards were pretty good.
That's right. You got it.
Batman, or was she from older than that?
Oh, yeah, World's Finest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Master Investigator. While Oracle's active, your opponents pay 1 more to use each global ability. Okay, so I knew there was one in Golden. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Good pull, Oracle.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't played that set in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
World Finest is a great set.
Mm.
Anything DC is a great set.
Kim loves DC.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. Really good content, and I agree. It is really worth repeating that you need to be able to learn how to use those competitive globals that your opponents might bring, and be aware of how to use your own globals. And if your global is too good, and I think we talked about that today, if what you're bringing is too good, you might not want to bring it to the game, right?
He has a point there.
Okay. Yeah.
And I also agree with his keeping the team lean. Like, you don't want to buy too many dice, and really in a competitive game, you should really focus on your build being maybe think about purchasing maybe 3 dice, from 3 cards total. Like, you're not going to be able to buy everything, right?
Yeah,
so
you want your team to be lean.
You want to be able to run your team, your win con and everything with maybe 3 or 4 cards, right?
Yeah.
And maybe have the rest as globals. So.
Yeah, and like our friend Chris says over at the Ministry of Dice, he's like, it takes so long sometimes to churn stuff through, right? Through your bag, depending on what type of ramp and churn you've brought to the game and what your opponent has done to your ramp and churn. So, you don't want to get to the point where you've bogged your bag down. You want to be lean. And I know I learned how to play pretty lean when I was playing against Green Devil Mask, because you could only have 3 characters in the field before you triggered that. Once you fielded that 4th character, you would trigger the mask, right?
If anything, the Green Devil Mask taught us to keep our field lean.
Yeah, which in turn helped me keep my bag lean and only purchase what I need. Now it's to the point where sometimes I don't purchase enough. I'm like, do I really want another copy of this die? Because it's just another die I'm going to have to churn through my bag. Because churn is something I'm working on. That's why I really enjoyed that Atlantis team we played. So, Okay, and then we heard from everyone's fave hero, Donnie. Hey, Donnie. Similar to Nick, Donnie writes to us after almost every episode, so thank you, Donnie, for doing that. Donnie provides us feedback on YouTube, typically, as he did this time. Not Discord, because it's black, right, Kim?
That's right.
Kim has her YouTube in dark mode.
I have everything in dark mode on my computer.
Really?
I only have Discord.
You could do that.
Yeah, Windows you could do it in dark mode. Everything to do in dark mode. Chrome you can do it in dark mode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kim's gone to the dark side.
She did. But is she Luke's father? Is the question.
Father or mother?
Semantics.
I doubt she's his father.
No, probably
I doubt
not.
it. Yeah.
So Donnie said, also Kim, sorry, I guess I'll start with the first comment here. On the subject of actions and globals and the global window, Donnie would like to know where character abilities trigger within the global window. I can't think of a specific example, but I know that some cards say you can trigger this ability when you could use a global ability. So that's a good call out. I can't think of a card right now, Kim. Do you have one handy that you can think of that says when you could use a global ability?
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
The old Rare Collector triggered that way, right? From the Mighty Thor set. Does the new Collector trigger in the same way? The Collector? She types into the Dice Coalition Team Builder. No, he awakens. So the old Collector, which was Tanlir Tivan, while the Collector is active, once per turn, you may pay the purchase cost of target unpurchased character die -2. If you do field that character die at level 1, return that die to its owner's card or when it leaves the field zone. That actually doesn't say in the global window.
There's only one that I'm seeing in my face. It's golden. I don't think there's anything that's. Oh, there is this modern. Oh, yeah. So, oh gosh, chair smash. Send this die to use pile during your clearance. Whenever you can use a global ability, send this die to the use pile and deal 3 damage to target attacker or blocker.
Right.
Wormhole does it. Oh gosh, I can't pronounce this guy's name. From the Orc pack, Gazakul. That's it. Gazakul. Ghazghqul. When he's active,
Gazakul Thraka.
What?
Sam.
Yeah, something like that. When he's active once per turn, when you can use a global ability, you may KO a character die you control. If you do, deal 1 damage to the target opponent. Hey, that's an interesting card.
It is an interesting card, Kim. You should build a team around that.
Got it. I'm on it. Thraka, I'm coming for you.
So actions and globals in the global window, where would that character ability trigger? So if that's a character ability that you can trigger when you could use a global, you could either trigger it in the main step or in the global window of the attack step, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's any of the global wills, which I actually didn't, when I was first learning, that boggled my mind.
Which?
Like
the entire game?
No, when you could use a global ability. When I could use a global ability like that, like
yeah.
Made
and
my
why
head
would I
spin.
use a global ability? Because I'm just going to buy more dice.
Yeah. When I could use it. So, yeah. But now I get it. It's during the window.
Yeah. So any time you have the option to use that global. So if you were in the attack step, Donnie, and your opponent passed you priority in the global window, you would have to do it at that point. Mm-hmm. Because if you passed back, you may not get another opportunity to do it. In the main step, when your opponent passes you priority, you could do that because that's when you can use a global ability.
Ooh, this card even has once per turn. I could do it on both sides. Okay, I'm totally building a team on this guy.
All right. Kim's building a team. So then Johnny continues, I was worried about you not mentioning Static Field, but it came around. It's probably my favorite global, he said, along with Magic Missile. And he said he feels like there was a superwoman in Golden Age that had a global he liked that changed all or some energy to bolts, but didn't spin your dice.
That's correct. But she was a confusing card. I think there was a ruling around her.
Okay. Well, we won't get into that. We might post the ruling into the show notes.
Yeah, it's something about, again, goes back to, do you have to use bolts or question marks, that deal kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he thought that one was interesting. He also liked the Blue Eyes and Red Dragon globals. So those were kind of before my time. I don't know how
Which
much
one was
you know
it? Sorry?
about those.
Which one?
Blue Eyes, White Dragon.
Oh, yeah. Blue Eyes is the one that when you... oh, I like that global.
I've got
You pay a bolt and you knock out one of your characters and the next action die you purchase. No, sorry, the next die you purchase is reduced by 2, I think.
That's it exactly.
Yeah. It's the next die, not action die. It's any die.
Any die. Yep.
And then the red dragon is the one with the action, and then you deal a damage back to the opponent.
Red Dragon says once per turn pay bolt. When you purchase your next action die this turn, it costs 2 less to a minimum of 1, and you deal 1 damage to your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So then he said there are so many good ones. He also put a good tip in here. When playing online, I typically write down on a paper next to my mat what the opponent's globals are, since sometimes I can't always see the other player's team. So I think that's a good tip. And then he also said, he said also, Kim, challenge accepted. I'll bring surprise attack next time we play.
So I could buy it off him.
Yeah. So that was the feedback for this episode.
Yeah.
Do we have any event announcements, Kim?
Yeah, we have Dice Social coming up at the end of the month on Saturday, May 29th. We start at 2 p.m. usually, and we meet at the DM North room 9. The theme is Flippity Flip. It's a golden event, so you can use any cards you wish, as long as you can fit the theme. If you can't, you can bring whatever team you like. Green, as always. So the theme is pretty much a make-your-own flip card team. So every card on your team is a do-it-yourself flip card, including your basic actions. So pretty much, what do you have, 20 cards on your team? You will have a card on one side, on the other side a different card. The cards can be from any set, but must be the same character using the same dice. Each turn you will flip, and then during gameplay, each turn you will flip a card over on your team. You cannot flip over the same card you flipped on a previous turn. And that includes basic actions as well. And your cards don't reset for the next game, so they stay as is until the next game starts, until you've flipped over all your cards, and then you can do it again.
Cool.
And bans is actual flip cards.
So if a card literally has a flip mechanic, you can't use it.
Yes, you cannot use it. Yeah.
It's bring your own flip card, build your own flip card.
Yep. So that should be a fun one. I was talking to Mr. Spin, Mike, and I'm like, yeah, good thing we gave you like almost a month to build that team. Might take you a bit.
He's a newer player, right?
Cards. Yeah. He's been coming out to Dice Socials and Weekly Dice Arena. So I finally got to play him on Tuesday. So.
What do you think of that theme, Rob?
I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to building for that.
I think
there's always
unfortunately
cards.
There might be a lot of questions like, okay, now what card is that on now? What side is that on now? You might have to be asking your opponent, but it'll be fun, right? And that's the point of it all, right? Is to have fun.
Yeah, I think there's always cards, and I've talked about this before, that I wish I could put more than one of them on my team, but I can't because they're the same card. Like, I would play all 3 of the Gazers from Dungeons and Dragons, but you can only put 1 on your team. So now I'll at least be able to put 2 on my team.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. Good opportunity for it.
Yeah. But I'll pass on the Intimidate one this time. Because it's a green level event, which means come for fun and less although we talked all about control for the last however long we've been talking, less control is better in a green level event. So
True enough.
come for the fun. Come for the social. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. We've gone a little longer than usual, so I hope that you enjoyed the episode. We want to thank our guest, Rob, for coming on and inspiring this team building series.
Well, thanks for having me. Once again.
And thanks always to Kim. If you want to get in touch, we would really love to hear from you. Please send us your feedback. You can find us in various places. So you can send us an email at tripledpodcast@dm-north.com. You can leave a comment on our episode posts on dm-north.com. You can also find us on all the social medias, which include Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook, and the Twitch. So the socials name is dmNorthTV, and Twitch is twitch.tv/dmNorthTV, and of course our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/dmNorthTV. Also, don't forget to check out Dice Station Zebra on YouTube and subscribe if you can to help us get to our 100 subscribers, help Rob get there so that we can say the same types of things on his episodes. And until next time, where else? There's one more. You can message us on Discord. I've totally fumbled this exit today. So Kim is at SuperK and I am at JoceStitch, JOCE Stitch, and you can send us direct messages on Discord. And if you want to give Rob any feedback on Discord, you can reach out to him at Rob_L. So I think that's all we've got for today. So until next time, on a double and dice.